It is the Tuesday edition of the Pump Fake, coming off a very busy week 13 around the NFL. Jarrett Baylor with you, joined by someone who I'm very lucky to consider a friend, a mentor in the business, uh, fan of Jamiroquai, Mike Tanier from from Football Outsiders. Good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. Explainer of Jamiroquai, apparently. That is my life here. I'm his biographer, and I'm gonna light my candle here. So we're gonna curse the darkness and light a candle.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
What's the scent?
The scent is camphor and fir needles.
Wow.
I don't mess around, and my wife gave me my favorite candle, but I'm sort of saving it for like after the season ends. Tobacco and cedar.
Ah.
A company that does not sponsor me called Delo. I'll give them a free shout out though. But tobacco, not in the somebody just smoked a pack of menthols and blew them in your
Right.
face, or you hooked up with a girl who was a smoker and you're making out with her and you're realizing this is a fucking terrible idea. Not like that kind of tobacco, like Grandpa's pipe when you sat at his knee and he explained to you who Mike Schmidt was. That kind of tobacco, yes.
So are you speaking from experience there?
I think everything I just said was from experience. I think I just provided way too much of a window in the old soul there, and I'm also enjoying a whiskey here.
Oh, it's lovely.
So don't ask too many challenging or personal questions because
I think once we hit like the half hour mark, I'm going to start doing that.
oh yeah, might as well do a show.
Speaking of staring into souls, the 49ers are doing a lot of soul searching right now because they lose their second quarterback to a second season-ending leg/foot injury. Jimmy Garoppolo going down early in the game against the Dolphins this past week. 49ers, surprisingly, though, still pull out the win. Brock Purdy looks good, which was surprising. Tua Tagovailoa, though, and the Dolphins, I think, the narrative going in was, okay, you haven't really beat anybody under, normal circumstances this year. They beat Buffalo early on in the year, but it was in a sauna with multiple Bills players missing. And then the only other team of note that they've played was Cincinnati, but obviously Tua gets injured that game. So this is a big litmus test for the Dolphins. Yeah. And they come out swinging. Trent Sherfield has a 75-yard touchdown on the first play from scrimmage. But after that, I mean, San Francisco put the clamps down, multiple takeaways, multiple interceptions from Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah. And San Francisco just looked like the better team for 4 quarters. But obviously, now they move forward with Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
This is a team that I thought was going to not win the Super Bowl, but represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But now, obviously, not having Jimmy Garoppolo, that definitely puts a damper on things.
When did you think that? During the Trey Lance administration?
Or after no. Like, actually, coming into the season, I said, okay, they'll probably go like 8-9, 9-8 with Trey Lance. He's the first year that he is really, there would be some growing pains. But after the game against Arizona, which albeit is against, the dumpster fire Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury, who can't, who couldn't call a play to get me open right now, apparently. And Colt McCoy was the quarterback. I understand that, but the way that they looked just on both sides of the ball, Jimmy had 4 touchdown passes. The defense held Arizona to just 10 points. Like, that was the most well-rounded game I've seen them maybe have since Kyle Shanahan took over as head coach. Like, that was just a phenomenal performance. So, after, once they had McCaffrey in the building for a full week and they just dismantle the Rams, which isn't strange, and do that to Arizona, once they were doing that, I was like, okay, you know what? San Francisco could do this.
Yeah. And well, first of all, one thing is that the Dolphins also had a lot of injuries in this particular game. Both of their tackles were out, and both their tackles are going to be out for a while. They signed Eric Fisher to try and put out the fire, something they probably should have done like week 4.
Yeah.
But I came out, I entered this game. It's like, okay, well, this is a good storyline game for Dolphins 49ers because the winner promotes to the Super Bowl tier. Okay, I had the both teams on they could be a Super Bowl team tier, and if one beats the other, they demonstrate who they are. And of course, the Niners do that, and they're about to go to that Super Bowl tier, except that Brock Purdy is the quarterback right now. So, I did what I did not do is I did not go back and look at Brock Purdy's Iowa State tape. I'm not mentally prepared to take that step for this quarterback.
You know what I did, Mike? I'm
Yes.
doing a piece, kind of introducing 49ers fans to Brock Purdy for Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
I did not go back and watch Brock Purdy's tape either. So what I did was I texted a lot of my college football writing friends, Thornmeister included, and I was like, hey, just tell me what you think about Brock Purdy. So that's basically what the piece is just people who know more about college football than me telling people, hey, this is what you should expect from Brock Purdy.
Well, what'd you find out?
I think basically what's kind of expected. He brings some things to the table that can get you through a few games. Probably not who you want, to be under center for a playoff run.
Right.
However, the 49ers are unlike most teams where it's a very quarterback friendly system that'll make you look a little bit better, and he's living proof of that. I mean, look how he played against Miami. So, obviously not what 49ers fans wanted, but I mean, it could be worse.
you hope you're going to get from these college football guys or from the draft nicks this sort of binky guy. Like, oh, he was my binky guy. Brett Rippins and all these other guys. Like, no one understood him but me. You generally don't get that from any Iowa school quarterback. You don't get that from Iowa quarterbacks. You don't get it from Iowa State quarterbacks. I looked through the numbers enough to say,
anywhere in the Midwest is just a solid no.
Right, because the binky guys are always on the West Coast because, you didn't stay up until 2 a.m.
watch Pac-12 after dark.
Yeah, watching Pac-12 after dark, and I know the truth about this kid. And it's like, yeah, he beat Oregon State. Oregon State is basically like a mountain A&I school. But, it looks like Purdy can throw the ball downfield pretty well. It's possible that he actually has a better arm than Garoppolo. I know that that's damning with faint praise. But one thing you could see is some opportunities to just take a few more shots to loosen up defenses. Because you're like, okay, Garoppolo's going to make better decisions. He's going to be more comfortable with all the little, pushing all the little buttons in the system to deliver those short passes. That's what he does best. That's what he has done successfully for years. That's what he was doing this year. Purdy is not going to be able to automatically do that because he ran the scout team. That's not how it works in this range. But Shanahan can create obvious, easy yak opportunities, disguise a lot of things, fart the ball to McCaffrey, fart the ball to Debo, and then you can get deep. Take a one-on-one shot. Take a one-on-one shot to Ayuk or that. What's the kid's name? Gray, somebody like that, and open things up. And that's one thing you can see. But I operate under the assumption that he can get you through a game, like you said. I haven't looked at the spread this week. He could get you through that game. They have a Thursday nighter coming up against Seattle. I don't think I'd be kind of risky on that one. After that, they're going to get a book on this kid. And there's only so much he knows. Now, the story is Garoppolo might be back in time for the playoffs. That creates a situation. First question is, Niners have to get there, probably will. Secondly, they have to get there in a way where, we're not facing the Cowboys in the first round.
They faced Dallas in the first round last year. Look how that turned out.
Right. Well, true. I mean, it is the Cowboys, and they do tend to fall apart. You want the Vikings in the first round. Maybe you want the Buccaneers in the first round. I don't know. I think they got the Buccaneers coming up pretty soon, though. So that's
they play them next. They play them this coming week.
Oh yeah, welcome to the NFL, Brock Purdy. Here's Tom Brady. Now, I just rewatched Monday night game.
The over under for that game is going to be 15.
It's going to be 15. Every game the Buccaneers play is like 17-16. And it's 17-3 until the fourth quarter, and then the opponent's like, we better start acting stupid because Tom Brady's on the other side of the field. And by the way, I'm just going to mention, I was just watching the cut up, the condensed NFL Plus version of this. 44-yard pass interference penalty at the end is not shown in the cut up at all. They're midfield, and then they're at the one.
They just expect you to fill in the blanks. Oh, Tom must have made a good throw here.
Conspiracy theories. So yeah, it's like I might want. I have no idea because I was sound asleep by then. That could have been the most flagrant pass interference in history, or it could have been a ticky-tack call. I'll never know. I could actually go check the all-22 and find out, but I'll never know because I'm not going to do it. Great work, NFL Plus. Excellent work.
That was such an annoying game because Todd Bowles opted and he's down 16-3 with 7 minutes left. Tom's like waving off the punt team, and then they call a timeout, and then Todd Bowles brings on the punt team, and the boos that came from Tampa Bay. Like,
yes.
Todd Bowles was in the middle of one of the worst coaching performances of the year, and then Dennis Allen said, "Oh, not on my watch." You want to see bad? Watch this.
And Bowles did the same thing the previous week. We're like, oh, we're just going to goof around with the clock late in these games. You know, it's not like this is a prime head coaching opportunity or anything, Todd Bowles. Yeah. It's not like you're not really auditioning for this. And he's telling us, I'm a defensive coordinator, and that's fine. That's maybe your station in life. But yeah, on the other side of the field, like 2nd and 1, they run this. The Saints run this concept where Dalton gets sacked. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Andy Dalton knows how to play football. He knows it's 2nd and 1. Where's his dump off dude? Where can he just squirt the ball to? And there's nobody. Everybody's going deep on this. There's no one cutting across. Even if he wants to bounce it at the guy's feet to not get grounding or anything. So I'm just like, what the heck is this call? And then 3rd and 17, now it's like you got to throw it again,
Yeah, it was just an annoying game to watch all around. One of those low-scoring games, like something that we've come used to with Tampa Bay this season. They scored more than 22 points, I think, once, and that was against Kansas City when they were getting curb stomped. And the only reason that they scored more than 22 there was because Kansas City was playing very soft in the fourth quarter because they could. Right. So yeah, Tampa Bay, very weird team. But you play Brock Purdy and the 49ers.
I don't know, because my usual strategy is play the backup quarterback.
Yes, I did hear you state that on Mina Kimes' show this past week. So
it is ancient handicapper wisdom. But Tom Brady throws a wrench into that. And wait a minute, the Bucs are 3.5-point dogs?
Yeah.
Mina won. No, I'm not laying points on Brock Purdy unless it's Iowa State against
roast beef A&M.
yeah, Stephen F. Austin. No.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The house is like, screw it. They're the 49ers. This is about Nick Samuel, buddy. Yeah, no, you can put a St. Bernard back there, quarterback. You're going to get wins. 3.5-point Tom Brady, 3.5-point dog against the Cyclone.
Oh, I don't necessarily think they're looking at it as Tom Brady against Brock Purdy. I think they just watched Tampa Bay only put up 3 points until 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter against New Orleans. Now going to play arguably the best defense in football, San Francisco. It's going to be a 12-10 just disgusting display of offense.
37 is the number, and even that it's like suspiciously. I'd go under it, but it's suspiciously weird too, because I think that they might be factoring in a pick six somewhere along the way.
What do you think? What game do you think scores more points, that one or Steelers-Ravens with Tyler Huntley against Kenny Pickett?
The final score of all Steelers-Ravens games is 23-20.
Yeah,
it's 23-20 either way, and you can I know how this will be 23-20. There'll be a turnover. There'll be a this. There'll be a that. Yeah, I'm sure. I remember Charlie Batch against Joe Flacco a couple of times. I'm sure I've seen every variation of like both quarterbacks being sort of like stretchered off at halftime in that matchup. So what's the number on that? Because if score's going to be 23-20, is the number exactly 43?
Let me pull it up because I already bet it yesterday as soon as it came out because I bet the under.
It's 37. I'm going over.
It's 37.
It's 37. I'm going over on that. I think Huntley will manufacture some points. He'll get some 55-yard Tucker field goals, and Pickett will be. What's your take on Pickett? You watch more Steelers than me.
Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros has the best comp that I've ever heard for Kenny Pickett. Right. He's got Alex Smith's legs and Sam Darnold's arm. Like I think that he's athletic enough, but he doesn't throw the ball down the field. He doesn't have a big arm. There was a stat, and it's obviously changed since, but I think right around Halloween, his throwing of more than 10 yards downfield, he was completing like 30% of passes, no touchdowns, 7 picks. Like it was just brutal, and it hasn't got much better. Granted, Matt Canada, his offensive coordinator, I understand that. Yeah. But two things can be true at once. Matt Canada's not good, but neither is Kenny Pickett. But knowing the Steelers, they're not going to make any sort of change. He'll be there next year. as sort of like, oh, he didn't have an entire offseason as the starter, which means that if we give him one this year, like, or some other Mike Tomlinism thrown in there, the standard is the standard, stuff like that.
So, I can see working with Pickett because you chose him. It's working with Canada for another year that would make no sense. But
that's what I'm scared of as a Steelers fan. Like, they're like 3 weeks ago, they were sitting at 3-7, top 5 pick. And I was like, all right, you know what? New territory for this team, but at least they can get, someone like a Paris Johnson at left tackle, draft him early. Now they're going to win all these nothing games against bad teams and be like 7-7 somehow and end up with the 14th overall pick in the draft. And it's going to be all for naught. So
they're going to grab an edge rusher like they always do.
Which
they're fine because they'll get a million more sacks. Well, I didn't watch last week's game against Pickett. In fact, I forget who they played. Did they play
Atlanta?
I took a weekly Falcons break, like a mental health week from the Falcons. So I haven't watched it yet. I'll watch it. Before that, the impression I got from Kenny Pickett is he understands all the concepts as long as they're slants, flats, or Pickens is down there somewhere because he's lofted enough plays to Pickens where I think he's gotten that air yards thing up a little bit. Just fly route to Pickett, which of course that's very basic.
It's the 3 S's for Kenny Pickett. It's slants, slots, screens. And slow goes. And screens, yes. The 4 S's. Yes, you're right. Yes, I'm sorry. It's 4.
Screens, slants, sluggos, and sacks.
That too. Yes, the 5 S's.
five S's among the S's for Kenny Pickett.
And if you want to be cynical, stinking, you can throw that as the 6th one.
He doesn't really have a great grasp of what he's doing right now. I do see him booble around the pocket a little bit more than a 5-year starter at pitch.
Zero pocket presence for Kenny Pickett. Definitely.
Right. He's the innovator of the 7 steps and 2 steps to the left drop sometimes, which I don't think is an NFL concept. I don't think it's a college concept either. There's enough there to say it's not Zach Wilson. It's not, my God, flush the toilet.
Sure. He went 16 of 28 for $197 and a touchdown. Didn't throw a pick, but 57 of those yards were a Pat Freiermuth catch and run that he caught like 7 yards downfield. So really, it's like $140 something on 15 completions, 27 attempts. After that, it's just his yards per attempt is very close to the bottom of the league. He came into this week at like 6 yards an attempt. It's just, and you can't tell that to Steelers fans though either, by the way, because they're like, oh, he's a franchise quarterback. Like, they're not asking him to do anything. Right. What are you talking about?
Right.
It is very
fans don't know what developing a quarterback looks like.
Been 20 years since they've had to.
In the 20 years, I mean, forget Patriots fans; they have no it's all magic to them, But like Steelers fans, it's like, well, did he win? And then therefore good. Like it's like a Cro-Magnon. Result good. And then they stick to it, and they stick to it, and stick to it. So it's going to be a journey. I think this rebuilding for Steelers fans is going to be a journey because they didn't handle the Trubisky thing well. They didn't handle the Star of the Pickett thing now, and now like a 2 or 3 game win streak is he has turned the corner. That is it. He is Patrick Mahomes. It's like he is like,
and there's never an in between that either. It's either he's god awful or he's God. I will say this, though. Yes, it's not Zach Wilson. I think he's better than Mac Jones, which, again, isn't a high bar. I think that Mac Jones is – we talk about quarterback play in that division. Mac Jones has been putrid this season, but Zach Wilson has been, like, twice as putrid, so he has, like, garnered almost no criticism because he plays in a division with – I mean, bad quarterback play. Watch that division outside of Tua and Josh Allen. It's been gross.
Yeah, and Mac Jones is not getting coached pretty much at all, and the plays have not been installed, and the plays that have been installed are like junior varsity concepts and things. So it's like you went from somebody who's being immaculately coached and scripted last year, and we had to deal with the Mac Jones narrative, to this, which is such a pendulum swing in the other direction. It's like he's probably a game manager. He probably really is, but like when they're calling these plays out of a Barnes and Noble offensive strategy for dummies book. It's like it's going to look like hell. And Zach Wilson is kind of the opposite in that he can't be bothered with like little details like knowing what the hell he's doing or paying attention to his coaches. So you have to get that guy out of there as soon as possible. So rough stuff.
And somehow they still ranked ahead of Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers and DVOA.
Don't get me started about Justin Herbert. Not when I'm drinking.
Hey, it ain't his fault.
He's obviously down, but he ain't his fault, and therefore he's a good quarterback, or it ain't his fault, and therefore he's Josh Allen. And if you don't realize that, you don't understand football. Where are we? Where's the rangefinder on what Justin Herbert really should be right now, versus the fact that like he's down there next to Andy Dalton and DVOA?
Right. If blank slate, you get to like rank quarterbacks and whatever. I think he's somewhere between like 7 and 10, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would go between maybe 7, but I would go down 12, 13, 14. And right now, Joe Burrow is better, and right now, Jalen Hurts is better.
Sure.
So while Justin Hurts, I'm excited about it. I've seen what he can do. He's the third best quarterback in his draft class, and I just said Hurts and.
Oh my! I forgot that Hurts was in that draft class. I'm thinking of first round guys. And I was
like, I'm not veering into the Tua debate. I'm not Emmanuel Acko. I'm not that thirsty for engagement. Okay.
The Tua crowd.
But no, that's where we're at, and it's great. And like I'd like to enjoy Justin Herbert's development and talk for real about it.
Yeah.
But when it's 4th and 12 and he throws a touchdown pass, an amazing touchdown pass.
Just right in the bucket.
27-20 in the fourth quarter against the Raiders, who have no secondary, when he has not produced a touchdown yet all afternoon, because the only touchdown was a defensive touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitter has a mass orgasm about as if they just saw, the Dark Phoenix arrive and change the way we live our lives. That and it's like, yeah, that was a great play. He lost to a bad team and played poorly all game.
Yeah.
Stop spooging all over him and follow the flow of this game. Joe Burrow, of course, Joe Burrow leads the comeback against the Chiefs, and it's like, Perrine, Higgins underneath. Perrine. Beautiful quarterbacking, but there's no orgasmatron play. But it's a win. It's a win. How many of those did Tom Brady have? Okay, he actually had a lot when Randy Moss was there.
Yeah.
It's about the production. It's about the success. All right.
I do find it curious though how the Chargers have. I mean, you look at how Herbert played his first 2 seasons, especially his rookie year when the entire just offense was collapsing around him. He still plays really well. Last year, he puts up very good numbers. He broke the Chargers franchise record for single season passing touchdowns. He's already been fantastic, and now Joe Lombardi is turning him into just a check down quarterback.
Now I'll go defend Lombardi. First of all, he was there last year.
Yeah, that's the thing that's boggling my mind. What is so different from this year compared to last year, where it's night and day difference? I don't get it.
Rookie left tackle who played guard at Georgia.
Yeah, not having Rashawn Slater there hurts.
Yeah, rookie guard who replaced the other rookie guard at guard, Zion Johnson. The third right tackle of the year, I don't know the kid's name, but he's the guy who came in because Storm Norton was unavailable. And they've got some backup center out there whose name escapes me right now. So you have 4 goofballs and Feeler on the line. And by the way, Zion Johnson's a good player. I think Salyer's a good player, but rookies and goofballs and Filer, that's your offensive line. So Lombardi,
Steelers legend, not Filer.
I saw guys on throw it deep, Lombardi. Herbert will die. Herbert took 5 sacks, got about 7 pressure. He can't throw it deep. He doesn't have those opportunities. So that is again speaking to the fact that he's a better quarterback than what we've seen in the last couple of months when this offensive line injury situation has come up. That's a big part of it. The question is, how much of a discount are we going to give him and say, oh yeah, this is a very good quarterback who has rookies and randos on the line, or he's already Josh Allen's big brother. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Look at this highlight. What's wrong with you? That's where I come from. And last year it was I remember the Raiders game at the end too. With all those touchdowns, which they lost. Okay. But all those touchdown passes. And then I'll say, well, what happened with the 2 interceptions against the Texans? What happened to the 2 interceptions against, I think, the Broncos? He had a couple of 2 interception games late in the year. It's well, you see, the real problem with the Texans game is that they couldn't stop the run. Oh, they couldn't stop the run, and that's why he threw interceptions? I don't understand. Well, he had to come back in those games. You're telling me he's an outstanding quarterback. He couldn't come back against the Texans. Work with me a little bit here. Okay.
I'll say this on that, though. I think that every team is allowed to have a stinker or two. Like Josh Allen played abysmal last year against the Jaguars in Duval. Mm-hmm. So, like, I do think that, every rose has its thorn. When I
right. It's got to get to the point, again, where it's like 11 roses and 6 thorns. Again, not to say he's a developing prospect. He does amazing things. Before we get to that, hey, who are your top 3 quarterbacks in history? Well, obviously it's Dan Marino and Tom Brady and Justin Herbert, like, because that's like we're at sometimes.
There's got to be a happy medium to this debate. But did you? I found something that kind of boggles my mind, and this is off of Football Outsiders.
Okay.
The bottom 5 teams in defensive DVOA.
Okay.
The Chicago Bears.
Okay.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
Jacksonville Jaguars. New York Giants. 28th in DVOA. Huh. One of these things doesn't belong here. At least it doesn't feel like they do. But they're sitting at 7-4-1. Could have been 8-4 after this past week. And it feels like their defense is playing better than that. Especially like they're a very second half team. We understand this. They're not going to put together 4 quarters of just immaculate football with what they've got, especially offensively. But that was alarming to me. Like I didn't expect to see the Giants that low.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that too, especially because I see like the Houston Texans above them.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking to see if it was opponent adjustment. It doesn't seem like that's a huge thing going on with the opponent adjustments. I think strength of schedule adjustments. They played a pretty weak schedule overall. I think that has a lot to do with it. So I know in the past, and it's been a couple weeks since I've really studied the Giants because they were starting to fade out of it. The yards per play allowed they were giving up was pretty significant. And the yards per pass play allowed were pretty significant. And then they were getting just enough defensive stops to stay in some of those games earlier in the season.
Very bend, don't break.
They were very, very bend, don't break. And then they would come up with a win, and the final scores were like, 28-21 again, or whatever it was against second-rate opponents. So I'll say this. I don't know everything that's in the stats right now. They're fading. And in the first quarter against Washington, it looked like they were toast. Like they were absolutely done in that game. It's like they got nothing left. Washington's marching down the field, settling for a field goal. Washington a turnover, marching down the field, and then fire high. Heineke fires high, and they've got a punt. And they stayed in that game, first of all, because they were just running zone read, and like it was source read to the Commanders. Again, are supposed to have this great defensive line, even with Chase Young on the sidelines. And it's like zone read. We never saw that at Alabama, where we played, And the Giants kept punting the ball back and pinning Washington at like the 6-yard line, the 10-yard line, 12-yard line. And my favorite play of the game, after a kickoff, the ball starts bouncing at the 3-yard line after a kickoff, and Antonio Gibson's like, and after like 3 bounces, picks it up and like stumbles forward 3 yards, and it's another play at the 8-yard line. I'm surprised the Commanders are that low, but there's a lot of extenuating circumstances that are probably making their defense look on the field better than it looks in the metrics.
This could come back in terms of the tie between the Commanders and Giants. This could come back to haunt Seattle because these are 3 teams that are very. I went for last week on my newsletter. I went game by game to see how I think the playoffs would go. These 3 teams are so interwoven the rest of the way. It's fantastic. It's going to be so much fun to watch that.
Okay.
Because
there's tiebreakers, right? Because they played each other.
Yes. So obviously the Seahawks beat the Giants. Giants still have to play Philadelphia. Commanders already beat Philadelphia. Yeah. But like if both the Giants, if all 3 teams finish with 9 wins, guess what? Seattle's kicked out because 9-7-1 beats 9-8. So that tie eventually comes into play. Like it's going to be very, very interesting to watch. And there is a world where we get Brock Purdy versus Taylor Heineke wild card weekend, and that is a world I want to live in.
That is amazing. Well, next Thursday night, we get Brock Purdy versus Geno Smith to decide the NFC West, as we all predicted was going to happen.
Right.
And this Thursday, we might be getting Baker Mayfield. He's rumored to possibly start on one day of practice which I'll be drinking.
Which if you're John Wolford or Bryce Perkins, you got to be like, oh, all right.
Yeah, so throw Baker out there. He doesn't need to practice anywhere. But I do the Monday podcast of Football Outsiders with Ian O'Connor. He's a Packers fan, and he noticed like the tie impacted the tiny hopes the Packers have of getting into the playoffs too, because I think they're kind of interwoven with those teams. And I love the idea that the Commanders and the Giants tied. They played the tie, if you really watch the fourth quarter time of that game. And they realized they didn't want anything good for anyone else. They just wanted to ruin things for everybody else. We're not good, but we can C-block all the other crap teams in the NFC by tying and just turning this into a cluster hump. And that's what they did. So more power to them. If I've got to watch it, they might as well make things weird.
I think that for this year only, we should just scrap the NFC South and have the 6 teams that are still in the hunt just have like a play-in dodgeball tournament that they televise, and the winner gets the 4 seed, and then whomever the remaining 2, because Dallas is going to get that the top wild card. Yeah. Which, by the way, they put on 33 points in the fourth quarter against Jeff Saturday's Colts. The game was competitive for the majority, and then something happened where Dallas is like, oh, we've been kind of playing with our food. Let's stop doing that.
That's exactly it. Exactly. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, it is the cat. The cat's been messing with the spricket. Spricket's dead. Let's just eat the damn thing. And that impacted DVOA at Football Outsiders because like they shot up past the Eagles in DVOA because of the fourth quarter, and the Eagles rest their starters against the Titans. And like I'm writing up a thing to because I do some of it and Aaron does the rest of it. And it's like, it counts when you do it in the fourth quarter, especially when it's 21-19 entering the fourth quarter. And like the first 2 scores were like within a minute of each other. It's not garbage time. You're putting the game away. If you had done that in the second quarter or third quarter, you're putting the game away. So what the Cowboys did, maybe the last one was a little gratuitous, but they didn't even have time to rest their starters because by the time, we got the ball back and you're on the line, let's score a touchdown, So,
the corpse of Matt Ryan just keeps waiting it.
What was it? Nate Tice was shown like DeMarcus Lawrence, Tank Lawrence, just taking Bernard Raymond and like tossing him into the
threw him aside like a rag doll.
Threw him into the sun. Threw him into the sun. And it's like, poor Matt Ryan has to keep going out.
That field event with like the ball on the end of like the stick that you spin and spin and spin and then let go and you watch it fly. Yeah, that's basically what
it was shot put.
Yes. And in terms of defensive DVOA, Dallas 5 percentage points ahead of second place San Francisco. That is just tremendous numbers.
Right. One thing about the 49ers, everything in our metrics say great defense, not necessarily historic defense. The bones in there of some things that they don't do historically well, outstandingly well. Part of that was games that Bosa was not there as well. Yeah. Okay. But the Cowboys, that pressure rate, which is beyond even what the 49ers can do, that sack, those pure sack numbers and everything, that's really impacting where they are in terms of their defensive metrics.
Yeah, they are, in terms of unadjusted pass, they are first in that as well, 3 percentage points ahead of Philadelphia. So just across the board, like Dallas has been fantastic on that side of the ball, which, I mean, you go back to last year, remember they were cutting like Jalen Smith. There was questions about Leighton Vander Esch, but I mean, when you have somebody like Micah Parsons, Lawrence playing well, Trevon Diggs on the back end, like they've got stars at all 3 levels, and that definitely helps.
They do. And what's the young man's name? Is it Dorian? Am I just making up a human right now?
I don't think you are.
Doris Armstrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't recognize a Dorian, but
Dorian Gray. Yeah. And they've been getting some stuff out of Jabril Cox and some of these other guys. Some of these like grab a dude type. Yeah. Grab a dude in the draft. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. Jarrett likes him. Yeah, a year or two later,
Jabril Cox will do.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. That's a couple of years later, sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't. You move on if you don't,
I feel like we always crap on Jerry Jones for like his mid-round selections, where it's like, that wasn't even on like Kuiper's board to go in the 7th round. What are you doing, bud?
Yeah, very primal. He's big, strong, and fast. And he made a lot of highlights. We're taking it. And like, okay, we're all like the footwork and the contact balance, and did you see? but he was slightly out of line on this play. Like, or grab the big fast guy is also a possibility. Sometimes that works just as well, you know.
I feel like Jerry Jones with big fast guys is the same way that Al Davis was with like guys who played well in one Super Bowl. Like remember he signed Desmond Howard to a big deal and Larry Brown to big deals. Like but
that was late Al Davis. Early Al Davis was fast guy, fast.
Yes,
fast.
Darius Hayward Bay first round fast guy.
Yeah, fast and mean was good. And sometimes keeping it simple. I mean, Micah Parsons was a keep it simple pick.
Yeah.
You know, look at this guy. Look at what he can do. Oh, but he's an off-ball linebacker at Penn State, and therefore, if we look at the pure value and things like that, we'll let him rush the passer, see what happens. Oh,
oh, he just eats everybody in front of him. Who would have thought?
Right. Maybe the fact that he's super talented might help him in some way. You know,
it's almost like being good at football helps in these things.
Yes.
We are almost 40 minutes in. We haven't touched much on the Chiefs Bengals, but usually we save the best for last for these things.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. We spent time talking about Justin Herbert. Joe Burrow has been lights out since the first couple weeks of the season. There's big questions at the start of 0-2. He throws 4 interceptions against Pittsburgh. I think he threw 1 against Dallas, 2 against Dallas, something like that. And everybody's like, "Oh, Super Bowl hangover. Bengals are done."
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, their offensive scheming was bad throughout the first month or so. They've done a lot of diversifying the offense, which shows. And then defensively, like they might not have, a Micah Parsons. They might not have a Nick Bosa. They've got some guys that are like that right on the cusp of being like elite, but that play really hard. And you look at what Jermaine Pratt has done. They got DJ Reader back, and he's played really well. Mike Hilton at nickel. Like they have guys all over the field that, while they might not necessarily be elite, like they are consistent. They're not going to mess up games for Cincinnati, and they're playing really well. So all around, I mean, the Bengals have made a case for themselves, being like, "Hey, we just beat Tennessee on the road. We just beat Kansas City. Those are 2 very big back-to-back wins." And they're playing very, very well on both sides.
And you won a couple games without Jamar Chase.
Yes.
So you're winning games without this guy. And, I had forgotten, and it came up on the Football Outsiders data show. It's like, okay, so you bring 4 new starters in on your offensive line, 3 veterans, and then you replace the other guys. So it's Jonah Williams and a bunch of new guys. And then you take 0 reps in the preseason. Now Barrow had the appendectomy, so he doesn't. But the offensive line doesn't even play together. None of the starters play together because this is a Sean McVay innovation. Like, who needs that, And then this team goes out there and looks completely out of sync for 2 games.
Yes.
Stunning. Like the offensive linemen haven't had any reps together that were actually live against the opponent, and that they're like making mistakes and coming out of their stance wrong and aren't comfortable with the cadence and things like that. That's what the preseason is for.
Yes.
That's why Bill Belichick put his starters out there, and Andy Reid put his starters out there, and everybody else in the NFL who's not like a wonderkin put their starters out there. Those guys gel. All these offensive linemen that we knew could play started playing. And yes, Zach Taylor does improve his schemes a little bit. It diversifies things a little bit, diversifies the running game a little bit. And this is a team, like you said, a bunch of different ways to win, because they can win with defense to a degree. They can win with underneath passing now to a degree. It's not just F it, Jamar's down there somewhere. It's just not just that.
Which, I mean, last year that was kind of the criticism, is like, okay, you can have Jamar Chase just make these fantastic plays, but it's not sustainable long term.
Right.
And I think that they thought that they could just roll into the season and do that again, and they realized really quick. Which, by the way, better to find that out in week 2 that you can than like week 10.
Right. And you sort of can to a degree, because Higgins and Boyd are also good, although I think earlier in the year. But you have to have some counter punches available, and they weren't bothering. The counter punch was, let's run inside zone with Joe Mixon, on every first down, and see if we can get second and 8 and then throw the bomb. Now we have to put a little more thought into it than that, gentlemen.
Burrow 5th in the league in DYAR, according to Football Outsiders. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff is 3rd, by the way. He's just a fun little calling some Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I was watching some of that, and it's amazing what a clean pocket does to a quarterback.
It is.
Offensive line's really, really, really good.
Violently good in Detroit.
Violently good offensive line. So first of all, you got a clean pocket. Second of all, you got to allow 2nd and 4, because you got a 6-yard run or whatever first down, and he's making the most of that. And I don't think he's a phenomenal quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but he's demonstrating the stuff he did a couple of years ago when the Rams could give him a quick, clean pocket and some decent receivers. And it's like, maybe if you can't find a quarterback, and I think this would go for Geno Smith to a degree too, maybe you should find the clean pocket. Maybe you should find that and see if just the kind of sort of okay quarterback suddenly looks good, because breaking news, they probably will.
We touched a little bit on Baltimore. I do kind of want to go back to the Ravens-Broncos game because the Broncos just continue to find ways to mess things up. And it's just hard to watch. I tweeted yesterday, I'm trying to find the exact stat of the number for Denver. But it is abysmal when it comes to
red zone or
just the fact that if they scored like 18 points a game, they'd be 10-2 right now.
Right.
They have allowed the defense, especially, is just if you're the defense, I'm not saying that they should like give up, but I'm saying like if you're like Justin Simmons, Pat Surtain, you go out there, you hold a team to 3 points for 57 minutes. Like what are you supposed to do at this point? Like put up more than 9 points offense, and they just can't seem to do that.
Last 4 weeks, 10 points, 16 points, 10 points, 9 points. The Raiders, I mean, their defense buckled against the Raiders.
Yes.
And that often happens. It's like, all right, we're on the field for minute 39 and a half here. And, you know, we can't even give up like a field goal. And that's when the 30-yard run hits. Sam Darnold beat them.
He sure did.
He beat them convincingly. 17-10 loss to Titans. It's not Malik Willis, is it? That's Tannehill. That is Tannehill. Okay.
That was Tannehill.
That is Tannehill. I couldn't bear. I did not go back and watch that game yet. Like during the 1 o'clock window, I was watching Eagles Titans, Commanders Giants, Jets, Vikings, and there was a fourth game that I was monitoring on the side. Texans versus Scumbag. So like I saw Lamar was hurt, and all I'm doing is like scrolling my phone for Lamar injury updates.
Yeah.
I have very little knowledge of what happened in that game, but I know it was 9-3.
Yeah.
And then you get the ball. I know they got the ball back, and they had a chance to drive for a field goal.
By the way, if you rewatch that drive, some weird play calls. Weird play. I can't remember if they had one timeout or no timeouts, but Russ threw a dump off underneath, which granted got a decent amount of yards. They ran up, they spiked it. And then the last play before they tried the field goal, like Russ is scanning, doesn't have anything. He takes off, he runs, gets a few yards, and gets out of bounds. Okay. But you'd think that they would just incorporate, okay, let's just quick hit out of bounds, quick, like everybody else does to methodically get downfield. I
see it. He scrambles out of bounds, and there are 9 seconds. Well, wait. They call a timeout with 9 seconds left, and then he scrambles again.
Yes.
So they can't come up with like some kind of.
And then they attempt a field goal from the Chesapeake Bay, hoping that McManus can just kick the hell out of it. And then they lose 10-9. I found the Broncos have allowed less than 20 points in 9 games this season. They are 3-6 in those games.
Oh my God! So you score 21 and you are undefeated. Right. It's almost hard to say anything. It's gotten to the point of hyperbole. Where, is this the worst trade in NFL history? And it might actually look that way right now. But there were some pretty bad trades in NFL history. You trade your entire draft class for Ricky Williams. That's not ideal. But like, it's hard to. There's nothing to say about that team right now. It's just they're out of sync. Wilson's on planet, banana pants wherever he is in his mind. Hackett can't coach. And they're absolutely squandering a defense. I don't know how you come back from that this year. You have to come in with a new coach, maybe a new GM.
It sounds like they're likely going to try to hire from within their defensive coordinator, who everybody seems to be really high on. Because if they don't, they're probably going to lose him.
Then what do you do at offensive coordinator?
He better find somebody.
Bring Frank Reich in. Maybe Frank Reich can reach. And Frank Reich, hey, you had to try and get Carson Wentz on a brain wavelength. Here's Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Frank Reich just can't catch a break, can he? If that's the case. If you're Frank, I mean, if I'm Frank Reich, I'm not accepting that job. I'm going somewhere else.
No, Doug Peterson's going to hire me to be assistant quality control guy. See ya. Goodbye. Forget about it. Go take a year off and write my memoirs. Go see ya. I'll go back to Maryland and be the head coach. Bye. No, not taking any of that smoke.
That Stephen Ruiz on the Ringer NFL show, I think last week, was talking, and he's like, "Look, I understand that everybody's saying that they're going to be with Russell Wilson next year, like he's handcuffed to them. But if you're Denver, why not just kind of eat it for a year? It's $100 million in dead cap next year if you get rid of him. Why not just eat it for that year? It's better to suck for 1 year than to suck for 5 when you're tied to a guy. You might as well just embrace it next year. That's almost half the salary cap that he would just have in dead money
on one guy to just shame him and keep him home. And you can almost, because this new owner bought the team, and it's kind of like when I'm at the store and there's like a soda I like for $1.19 and a soda I like a little less for $1.09, I buy the soda that's a little less. But when I'm buying a car and, for $2,000, you get $2,000, you get like a heated, hand holder or something like that. Sure. What's $2 more grand? 36 grand, 38 grand. That's like the owner of the Broncos right now. It's like, I spent $1 gazillion on the team. Well, I'll just eat another $100 million. That's not a cash flow issue. That's just more sunk cost, The
new owners are from Walmart wealth though, too. So, I mean, that money's not a thing to them.
Money is not a thing to them, but I think $100 million is a thing to just about everybody.
So sure. Yeah.
Right. We're always very free with other people's money here on the internet. It's like, well, why didn't they just eat that? And it's like, somebody actually has to spend that money. Like
that's always the funniest thing to me. Like with the Raiders, like, yes. Oh, why don't they just fire Josh McDaniels? Yeah, if you think Mark Davis is paying 3 coaching staffs, you're out of your damn mind.
Right. Well, people think Mark Davis has $600 billion, and
yeah,
Mark Davis has the money that comes from being the Raiders owner. That's what he's got. So that's a lot. But when those expenses add up, it's like when you have your own business and your expenses get out of control. It's the same thing. Now, Walmart money's different. But it's not that different.
They could just make Russ like the lead greeter, like the guy who hands you the stickers when you walk in.
Visualize finding paper towels.
Walmart country, let's ride.
Right. We can give Sierra commercials. She can do commercials. Hi, I'm Sierra for Walmart. I'm only doing this because my husband screwed up his job. Yeah. So I'm like helping them eat cap space. Buy my lingerie. I have no idea what Sierra sells, perfume or
I couldn't tell you to save my life.
I'm an old Viking, so I know.
The Minnesota Vikings and New York Jets played an interesting game because the Vikings can't play a normal football game.
No, they can't.
The Jets outgained the Vikings by 200 yards.
Yes.
And they still came down to the fact that Minnesota got into the red zone and scored touchdown. The Jets got into the red zone, field goal, interception at the end.
Yes.
So that's what it really came down to. Mike White threw the ball 57 times this game. If you go back, though, I mean, multiple chances for the Jets to win this game. He overthrows Garrett Wilson on a go route, who is, if he catches it, he's got nothing but green in front of him.
Yeah.
And the Jets probably take the lead. Granted, the next play, they go deep again. Corey Davis gets a nice catch, and they still drove down the field. But I always found this discourse coming up to this game weird. Like, everybody was like, Mike White's just going to really go in there and beat Minnesota. I'm like, slow down a little bit. This is still Mike White, who, had a really good game last year against Cincinnati and then didn't play. He turned into Mike White.
Right.
So,
right.
I think the focus was that, okay, Minnesota has a bad secondary, which, by the way, Ed Donatell's secondary is bad. It's not good.
And they play like the super vanilla nonsense. Too.
Yes. Just a very conservative. Okay, yeah, take the 10 yards, take the 15 yards. We'll stop you. Like, it's not good.
Right.
But there's something to be said about maybe we don't bet the house on a third string quarterback, and maybe he's a third string quarterback. Now, that's not to say that Mike White played abysmal, but I think that everybody's like, oh, look what he did against the Bears.
You can
tell their franchise quarterback. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
You can tell what percentage of people talking actually watch the game at all.
Yeah.
And I watched that Bears game, and it's like, yeah, well, first of all, the Bears have no defense because everybody got traded and things like that. It was in the rain, and like very short passes were going for very long gains. And
Trevor Siemian was on the other side for Chicago.
Right.
As well.
So you keep getting the ball back, and you've got the lead, and you're comfortable, and you can throw a check down and get 20 yards. These things happen, etc. White played okay. He was rickety at the start of the game. He was fine at the end. When you get into the red zone and the windows get tighter, you lose some of the advantage you have from having all these playmakers, where it's like, okay, we're actually legitimately kind of worried about Moore and Wilson and Davis and the fact that the backs are still kind of okay and Azuma's back and the other tight end. And now you're asking White to make really crisp reads and really tight throws. That's not what he's going to get you. And that's what happened there. If they just needed field goals, if they hadn't given up points early in the game, then you probably get a win. The Jets have to be able to win games where it's like, oh, we got to 22 points. They have to be able to win that game. They couldn't quite get it done. Defense couldn't do enough. Vikings did enough Vikings bullshit. That's what it, and that's, it's like, we'll get down to the goal line. Barrios will drop a touchdown,
Yeah, he did. And that was another thing, like where they had chances to win, and Mike White, credit to Mike White. I mean, he gave them a chance to win.
Right. He gets them in there. And I think little LaFleur's got to think a little bit in terms of, this guy's not going to do it inside the 10-yard line. If we don't have a power runner, which we don't have, come up with some kind of creative system in here.
Maybe you don't scheme a play to Braxton Berrios when you've got, better talent on the field.
Right. It's design a wildcat system so you can get the ball directly to Wilson or Moore or something. I don't know, but it's not like, drop back into coverage and read the zone. And, Harrison Smith is standing in the middle of the end zone. That's a guy who knows where the ball is going to go.
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson has a pretty good idea what you're planning to do there. If you're Mike White, you're not going to discover an open man in the corner. Come up with something better than that.
If this was 2014, the Vikings would have a hell of a secondary with Patrick Peterson and Harrison Smith.
That's young Zadarius Smith would also be awesome.
Yes.
At least Anthony Barr's gone, although was he still playing for the Cowboys? I know he was playing okay early in the year.
I might have to look. He might have been there.
Yeah, I mean, Kendricks is still there. That's a team they never get rid of anybody. I swear C.J. Ham is 63 years old. I swear that he replaced Moose Johnson for Emmitt Smith. Vikings never get rid of anybody. It's kind of what helps them, I think, this year because their continuity is so good that they don't make these dumb mistakes. They pull a guy off the bench, he knows what he's doing, etc. I think that's really helping.
In terms of the Jets, though, their remaining schedule is as follows. They go to Buffalo this week. So they go to Buffalo. They host the Lions. They host the Jaguars. Then they go to Seattle and in Miami. I don't think that they're a playoff team with that schedule. Like their defense is great, and that's all well and good. Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco, they're not winning more than 2 of those.
All right, Buffalo's a loss. You get a split with the Detroit and Jacksonville. That gets you to 8.
Then Seattle, Miami.
You got to split Seattle. They've got to come up in one of these games. They got to show like we're them game. I think they had that against the Dolphins when the backups were in there. Yeah. They had that kind of game against the Packers. They need to get back to having that kind of game because we haven't seen that from them in weeks and weeks. And I honestly don't know if they have it in them. So the restack of the wild card is probably Ravens.
No, it's the Ravens are still atop the. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's say it's the Ravens, it's the Dolphins. And then that third, you got the Herberts. You got the Patriots. You got the Jets. That's it.
That's basically it. Yeah, I don't see anybody like. There's a few 5-7 teams that I'm not gonna say. I'm not banking on Kenny Pickett going on a run here.
Yes. Right. I mean, the thing is, Belichick is going to manufacture crappy wins. He's going to continue to do that.
You look at both the Chargers and Patriots that are both 6-6 who are going to try to steal that last wild card spot. Yep. Like I believe in Herbert more than I do Mac Jones, but I believe in Belichick a hell of a lot more than I do Brandon Staley.
Yeah, that's all true. And if you look at the Chargers schedule, it's pretty manageable coming up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I criticize Herbert. If he's doing the 1 or 2 highlights a game and then it's all 3 and out, you can still win a bunch of those. You can still win a bunch of those and get into the playoffs.
A big game for them on Sunday night this week against Miami.
The Takeopolis.
Yeah.
Take again. Can't hardly wait.
Emmanuel Otto is going to go into overdrive and explode into a combustive pile of Rolexes.
Why won't Twitter die like they promised us 3 weeks ago?
You know, as much of a hellscape as that app can be, I would be quite sad if that happened. Mostly because I use that to my benefit as much as I can.
We both need it for our.
Yeah, we both need it very badly.
Right. So it's a love-hate relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Miami this week on Sunday Night Football, which, because remember, they flexed out Patrick Mahomes against Russell Wilson. You know how bad you have to be for Patrick Mahomes to get flexed out of prime time?
Right, even for like rubbernecking, let's see how bad Russell Wilson is. It's not even. Don't do it. Yeah. Good instincts by the TV people. It's like, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that Miami wins that. I don't see the Dolphins just going on some sort of like. If the Chargers had a better defense, which by the way is Staley's calling card, then I would probably lean Chargers because they're at home, but their defense is horrible.
I got to see if because the Dolphins couldn't run the ball at all. That was a big part of it.
That is.
And you can't run against the Niners. You can run all day against the Chargers.
You and I could average $6 a carry against the Chargers.
Yeah, me and my wheelchair, man. We can go. If that happens, then that's probably. We'll call that a toss-up. Look beyond it. There's some very winnable games for the Chargers.
Yeah, I was going to say, they have Tennessee after that at home, at Indianapolis, hosting, the Rams, which is both of their home, and then they close at Denver. So, I mean, those are 3 very winnable games to close out their season.
Right.
Which could get them to 9-8, which would leave us where they were last year with a 9-8 team that's either in by the skin of their teeth or the first team out. And looking back saying, if we did this one thing throughout the rest of the year, we'd be in right now. So
right.
Very, very interesting team are the Los Angeles Chargers.
Right. And you can see where that and the Jets and then we have no offense Patriots, and you put them all together, and it's like, boy, I miss just having 2 wild cards but then we wouldn't be able to talk about any of this.
Exactly. I'm all for the 3rd wild card.
It's like Twitter. We need it. We need it for our career.
We do need it. We could talk about Browns Texans, but I don't want to. No. So we're not gonna. I always appreciate you coming on. Are you going to be in Mobile? I feel like I've asked you this.
I will be in Mobile come heck or high water.
Good. I'm going to be there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to make it happen one way or the other. And all I hope for have you been before? You were there a couple of years ago, right?
I was there 2021. Yeah.
Oh, you were there last year? No, you were there 2021.
Yes.
That was the year that was way too COVID-y, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like they didn't have like the convention center stuff where they have everybody kind of convene for whatever. So I was there, but this will be my first Senior Bowl big experience. So I didn't go this past January just because the finances didn't add up. But yeah, I'll be there. This
one was still a little weird, and I hope they open up. They heard some criticism. I hope they open up some more interview opportunities and things like that. But we were still pretty COVID-y in January. It also poured. It also poured to a point where I was like, I'm never doing this again, because it was raining buckets every single day.
That I do remember seeing on Twitter is that, they moved practice inside again.
And when practice is inside, we're going to allow 50 guys in and everybody else is going to watch the film. Well, if I'm going to watch film,
I could have stayed home.
I'm going to go watch film of the guy against Texas A&M, not the walkthrough, because I'm not going to pretend I'm Super Scout. His arm went sideways slightly. Come on, let's get real. But my plan is
twitchy on that one.
And then we will hit Saucy Q. And we will hit.
Go to what's Roots? Is that
Saucy
the other one?
Q is a ribs joint, right?
Okay.
We'll definitely hit that. We'll hit the beignet shop and breakfast, one of those places. We'll hit Veets. Veets is amateur hour. I'll take you to the places that are not Veets, where you might actually see real NFL people.
I was talking to Thor last year, and he's like, Mark Brunell spent so much time in the Veets bathroom.
That's true. Okay, Brunell's you'll get it. NFL guys there who are sort of like on the fringe, or who just really like Veets.
Yeah.
But then you have draft Twitter there, and it's a bunch of guys your age, not necessarily my scene anymore. And
right,
you were there. It's a bit of a.
It's a big old CF down there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sty. But
I think in terms of like how I had when I was down there, I was hung out with Albright a lot, Ryan Edwards, like that kind of crew. And I was still a broke college student, so they bought all my drinks for me, which was nice of them. Yeah, like I think that there is a difference between the the young media person who's just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm here, but
Right.
I don't know. I've known you for a good amount of time. I've known like Verderam for a good amount of time. I'm just excited to finally see you guys in person for the first time, which would be a lot of fun.
Right, and there is a balance where it's like, yeah, you're meeting a lot of colleagues and everything, and it's fun and having beers with guys you never had beer with. And then there's a little bit of a networking element too. So,
Sure.
Especially at my age, it's a little harder to drink that much booze, and then you have to ride this balance of, I just had my 6th drink and I was raising hell, and there's Matt Rule. And then this was like, and like I better like sort of like talk to him in some way that like doesn't sound like I'm a complete moron,
Right.
So there's a little bit of that, but we'll be able to do all that. We'll go to Saucy Q. I've got a couple other restaurants you can check.
I was going to say I've never been to Saucy Q. I wasn't there the last time I was there.
I have a long thing about Saucy Q, but I always make a point, even if it's for breakfast, even if it's like 10:30 in the morning rib breakfast, because what they used to do, boy, this is really great podcast gold, everybody. Used to be that like they'd have a practice from 10 to noon, then 2 hours off and a practice from 2 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
And all of Earth went from the practice, which was at Lad Peoples, not at the new stadium, to Saucy Q. So you'd be in there, scouts would be in there, coaches would be in there, etc., just destroying ribs like a bunch of cavemen. And then we'd all go back. Now they line the practices up like 12 to 2, 2 to 4, or with a bip bip. You can't go anywhere else. So it's like, and then Saucy Q is more of a lunch joint, so you don't go there. So it takes a commitment to show up at 10 a.m. and eat ribs at 10 a.m. I have that commitment.
I guess we'll find out if I have that commitment. I'm going to be downing a Starbucks double shot while I stuff my face with barbecue, apparently.
Yeah. Get the double shot as well. And then there's a couple of restaurants downtown. Verderam, Matt, I love you, is not an adventurous eater.
Isn't he?
He is not. So it's tricky to like, oh, let's go out and get something to eat. It's like, all right, I guess we're getting a burger. What's the place called? Nola Beer Brew House. That has like 17,000 beers.
Okay.
And it's got this very limited pub grub menu, but a lot of the people hang out there, especially the first night. And they do the thing that I don't eat this anymore, where they cut not a Krispy Kreme, but a locally sourced donut, like free range donut.
Oh, do they use that as the bun for a burger?
Yeah, and they put like 3 patties in there and things like that. And
I'll steer away from that just to my cholesterol.
Yeah, well, that's basically says on top of it cause of death to me. My wife would get a life alert on the phone if I ordered that. So, but like there's things like that. There, it's a fun scene. We'll get the whole thing done. Did they open up credentials yet?
December 9th. So I'll get that all in here in the next few days, and then book my flight out to the world's smallest airport. I do love the Mobile airport, isn't it? It's so nice and easy to get through.
That's true. It's easy to get through. I'll tell. All right, I'm going to end the thing. I'll tell my Mobile airport story.
Okay.
So we're leaving, and Mobile airport has like basically 4 planes, and is the size of a medium-sized Walmart. Show up.
It's like the supermarket Walmarts that don't have like the sporting goods sections.
Right. Yeah, you can't buy a rod and reel here, but you can get you get a gallon of milk. I show up as you often do. Let's say Friday morning, a little hungover as you always do. I roll through. I got my laptop bag. I got my carry-on bag. I roll through. I get. As soon as I get through security and customs, I go stop to get a drink, stop to use the potty, look around and say, I have my laptop bag. Don't I usually have clothes and crap? I'm like, where did I put my suitcase? Now, of course, you're leaving a suitcase someplace in an airport. That's a no-no in this world. But I'm like, you know what? I think it went through security, and I just left it there because I was in a hurry and over and everything. So I go, and when I say running back, I ran the 30 paces back to airport security. And there was a bag sitting there. Now it's just a generic black bag. And I was like, excuse me, Mr. Security person. It's like, is that my bag? Well, I don't know. Somebody left it here.
They all have like the hint of a New Orleans accent.
Right. That weird New Orleans, like it's Gambit, but also like just a Southern guy. And it's and he's like a federal officer or something, like airport security. Yeah. And I say, sir, do you mind if I open it up and look at it? And he's like, long as it don't go boom. That's not funny, sir. That's not a thing we joke about here.
Oh,
Like,
long as it don't go boom.
no, don't go boom. Like, oh my god, yeah. So it's a different experience down there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the Wild West, man. It's something.
but I do not like flying into that airport because it's like there's one flight a day if you're lucky. And
Yeah, I was getting I had to take a connecting flight, so I had to do Pittsburgh to Charlotte, Charlotte to Mobile, which is what I assume I'm gonna have to do again.
you always have to do, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, whatever.
Atlanta, Charlotte, and Houston; those are the only directs.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm doing this will be my first combine too. I talked to Ed Holm about that already. He's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be a lot of fun." So I'm excited to do Indy as well. It'll be a busy few months.
And I'll be doing Indy as well. That's awesome. Unskippable for me. So
I'll skip out on the draft. I wanted to do the draft this year, but I probably Kansas City.
I haven't gone to a draft since it was in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
There's no. It's almost.
That was about 2018.
2018, I think. It's useless from a media standpoint. You're not going to get any access.
Right.
You don't get any access to the guys. So it's like you're there to be there and all. I went to Philly because I hopped on the train.
I was going to say you live 10 minutes away.
Right. I hopped on the train. I went and I went home. There was $0.00 on the budget. And I used to go to New York because it was worth, $200 some on the budget of lunches and trains. Yeah. No Kansas City. No can do.
I'm looking forward to it, though. I'm looking forward to you showing me all the good eateries for future trips to that interesting part of the world.
There's good food there.
I didn't get to really experience it too much last year or 2 years ago, just because, like I said, I was a poor college student who was, budgeting my way.
Places were probably closed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I had Raising Cane's for the first time, though, so that was almost worth it. For that. I had Raising Cane's for the first time in my life, though, so that was worth it.
Okay. All right. How's that?
It was good. Yeah, no, I get the big deal that's made out of it. That's one of those places where a big deal's made about it, and it's like warranted.
Nice.
So I can back up the Raising Cane's the hype.
Awesome. You missed the era of the Brick Pit, which was in the woods a little bit barbecue joint that went out of business a few years back. But that was the pilgrimage. So rest in peace. Pour a little out for the Brick Pit.
We'll pour plenty out whenever. I'm looking forward to it, Mike. I always appreciate talking to you. What do you have going for Football Outsiders this week?
Football Outsiders this week, I'll be writing a little about Justin Herbert, so that was a little bit of a preview.
Oh, good, yeah, that was perfect then.
A tank watch on the Los Angeles Rams to run before the Thursday night game, in which I play Bang, Marry, Kill with Stafford, Donald, Cup, and Ramsey in an effort to fix the team. Because it's like obviously we'd want to bang all of them because they're still outstanding players when healthy, but the Rams can't afford that level of consummation anymore. So we have to play.
You're implying that they're paying to bang all of them, which means that all three of them are part of a prostitution ring.
But it's in a place where it's legal and consensual. So we're all fine with that. That's great. Got a thing coming up in the New York Times. It's a lot of what we talked about today, how 4 or 5 teams in the world, and then the 49ers who are in this weird nether region, and then everything else is kind of waiting for the season to end so we know what's going on. So that's coming up in the New York Times as well. Mike
Tanier, I appreciate the hell out of you for your friendship, your mentorship, and looking forward to seeing you. That's next month, Mike. Next month is Mobile. How fun.
End of next month, right? It's like the 28th.
Yeah, I guess it's technically like closer to 2 months away, but when you say next month, it's more fun.
Because you're it's true, but you're scaring me now because I'm completely unprepared. All right, we'll be good. Get through Christmas. Think about that.
Fair enough.
Yes.
And for me this week, if you're listening to this as a podcast, the Brock Purdy piece, which I talked about already, Justin Fields' film piece for USA Today.
Yes.
So yeah, check those out. Oh, and I graded Steelers this week, and Steelers fans got mad at me because I gave Kenny Pickett a C+. So go read that.
He was perfect. I didn't watch the game. He was perfect.
Yeah, he was just fantastic, wasn't he? Mike, we'll do this again very soon. I'm glad that I could get you on. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.